In this video, we are returning to the story of the Grail family as I receive it from the Thothic perspective. The full series, Path of the Grail, I will put a link to that in the information box below. But this is just one video that returns to that understanding. So we're going back to the Venusian Melchizedek, Lord Melchizedek, as Thoth refers to him, who came from Venus to establish what is being metaphorically called here the Grail families. Now, I don't wish to elaborate too much on what the Grail families are because I've done a whole series on that, but I will say this: the Grail families contain the DNA, the genetic bloodline coming from the blue star Rigel through Venus, which is the guardian planet of Earth, to Earth. And these genetics contain the path to spiritual awareness. And it was intended for all of the human race, not some elite group. And this is what would be creating the pure gem, or the pure born. Again, this is not a racial connotation. It is a spiritual one, and it involves all races and peoples of the earth who choose to open that flower, that lotus within their being, and receive what this particular genetic strain offers them. So it is not enough just to contain within your DNA the frequency that the Grail family brought to the planet, but it is an offering. It is a door that can open for you. It gives you an extra connection to your sacred lineage that's already within you as a human being and as a child of God. And so, Lord Melchizedek brought this connection to Earth in the age of Mu. Thoth speaks of Melchizedek, the Lord Melchizedek, but of course he wasn't really named that. I don't know what his name was at the time, but often Thoth gives me terminology and names that he applies to certain things so that we can follow that path, like the Grail family. They didn't call themselves the Grail family in Mu, but he's showing us a path symbolically that we can kind of grok. So why did he name this being Lord Melchizedek? Well, he often applies the terminology Lord to certain male presences that have a royal status. That is, by royal, I don't mean in a political sense, but, in an illumined sense. While he's never used the term lady for the feminine counterpart, he might if it came up in the conversation. So that's the Lord part. Melchizedek. Well, Melchizedek was a priest king in Salem, later to become Jerusalem, who initiated Abraham, a very important figure, and we're going to be talking about him. Thoth told me many years ago that Thoth, his soul, was incarnated as Lord Melchizedek, one of 5 souls, I believe, but it's the capstone soul. And now he's telling me that he was also the priest king Melchizedek, who initiated Abraham. The Mazur Grail family, and it was called that in the days of Atlantis at least, migrated from Atlantis to the Canary Islands, and from there they spread throughout the world. And they targeted certain locations to enter into the planet in the beginning because they were guided to do so the Basques, for instance, and the Celts and others. So they form the main threshold for this Grail consciousness on the planet. There were tributaries from that, but this is the main family. And we're going to follow this because the Melchizedekian lineage was most prominently represented there. Now I'm going to read to you just briefly from a Temple Doors issue of mine in 1997, but it refers back to 1994, I believe. Just a little bit about this Grail family. Again, you'll find much more of it on other videos I have, especially in the Path of the Grail series. The people who carried the gene strands of the 5 earth families and 3 star races were originally called the Mazur. As they began their nomadic journey, they traveled through many lands. A branch of the Mazur became the Tuatha De Danann. I had previously been given information on this latter tribe, which has been discussed in previous issues of Temple Doors. Then there is mention of the Hebraic tribe of Dan. At one point entered the fairy realm to create the Tuatha De Danann. After this occurred, the Mazur had the full cauldron within their keep. They were the true inheritors of the Sangral, the Grail bloodline. It was from this bloodline that the Christ would come forth through the house of David, a direct Mazur descendancy. And so through the Mazur, the tribe of Dan received this lineage, and it was later dispersed through other tribes of the Hebiru. Now let us turn our attention to the Arks of the Covenant. That's a plural because according to Thoth, there were 2. The sacred On, which he calls the Ark of Grace, the original one, and the one he simply refers to as the Ark of Karma. He's making it a simple analogy here. And I have videos on this as well, but just briefly, the sacred On was the original ark that was brought down from the mount by Moses to the people. And it was not something they were ready to receive. They simply could not accept it. There was a lot of drama around it. Won't go into that here. The same thing with the 10 Commandments, the tablets. They were the original talith, the sapphire, and they had to be withdrawn as well. So the Hebrews wandering in the desert with Moses had the opportunity to receive a much higher initiatory program of light in both the tablets that were in the Sacred On and the Sacred On itself. So they couldn't receive that, and thus they were given a lower version of both. Now, I know this doesn't entirely agree by any means to the accounting in the Bible or as it is interpreted, but this is Thoth's version. Let us take a look at the Melchizedek priest king of Salem. I'm going to begin with some screenshots here I took from another video, not mine, someone else's, but it has the name of the source on this video, which of course you could locate on YouTube. I just wanted to read you the very specific information that comes from the Bible in regard to this individual. The name Melchizedek means king of righteousness in Hebrew. Melchizedek lived in Salem at the time of Abraham. Salem means peace, so Melchizedek was also the king of peace. Melchizedek had no parents or bloodline. Thoth's version on Melchizedek would differ from this, in that indeed he did have a bloodline. It was that of the Mazur. But he was also neutral in the sense that he was not involved in tribal consciousness. So in that sense, he had no bloodline of that tribal perspective. He was a king and priest of God Most High, El Elyon. He blesses Abraham, and Abraham tithes him. Melchizedek establishes his priestly order, preceding and exceeding the Levitical order. Melchizedek is superior to Aaron and Abraham in his statute. His priesthood endures forever. I wish to read to you from and discuss what Corinne Helene had to say about Melchizedek in her New Age Bible interpretation volumes. Now, Corinne Helene is someone who's long ago passed this mortal coil, but her work is very harmonious, I guess you could say, with the Thothic version. So here we go. This is Corinne Helene from the New Age Bible interpretation volumes of the Old Testament. The mystic Mason understands that the esoteric tradition was taught to Abraham by the high priest Melchizedek and passed on to the worthy and qualified by Jacob and Joseph. Jerusalem is the very heart of the earth planet, esoterically speaking, which is to say, according to the spiritual vision, a spot chosen and consecrated by wise men since the beginnings of civilization under the guidance of great angelic leaders. It was here that Melchizedek, the mystery priest, one of the most exalted of the White Brotherhood and one who brought the sacred wisdom truths from Atlantis before its final undonation, worked and taught. It was here in this sacred area that he called Salem, the city of peace, that he instituted in the initiation of Abraham the first observance of the mysteries which were to culminate in the Lord's Supper, the feast of bread and wine. When the neophyte has died to the personal life through initiation, he becomes the newborn upon whom the second or natural death has no power. These illustrious ones are termed those who have been forgotten by death. Biblically, this attainment is phrased as a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. This title is descriptive of the messenger who brought the ancient wisdom from the Atlantean continent into Egypt and who later led Abraham into this state of soul immortality. King Solomon and the master builder Hiram Abith embodied the mysteries of their quest in the building and furniture of the great sanctuary. Had their followers remained true to this quest, destruction could have never overtaken the temple and its people. Instead of dissolution, decay, and death, peace and prosperity and eternal youth would have been their portion, and today the earth would have known a master craft of such enlightened powers that many of the present world evils would never have come to pass. Melchizedek was the King of Peace, Salem, while Christ Jesus, Prince of Peace, was, according to Paul, a high priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. It was not only a personality, but a principle. In Melchizedek and Christ Jesus are blended the two principles of head and heart, intellect and intuition, fire and water. The accomplishment of this union is the specific task set for the New Age. It is moreover the fundamental purpose of earthly experience. Speaking of this blessing, the Talmud declares, "The law may be likened to two roads, one of fire, the other of snow. To follow the one is to perish by fire, to follow the other is to die of cold. The middle path alone is safe." Now, when I just read this the other day, this quote, I was struck by it because it is defining what Thoth calls the two roads, the blood path, which is the Grail path, and the path of the white stone, or the white road, which is grace, coming directly, being delivered from on high, shall we say, from the dove of light. And the two paths are still needing to work together, but soon we will be transferring from the blood path to the path of the Christic white light, the path of the white stone. So let us look at this quote again. The law may be likened to two roads, one of fire, the other of snow. The fire is the blood path, and the snow, the white, is the Christic white light path of the white stone. To follow the one is to perish by fire. Well, we're looking at it here in this context of the quote as something that is not eternal. It is continuation to a degree, but it winds up not being eternal, and it can cause a lot of conflict, a lot of dissolution, things of this nature. It's sacred, but it also has its elemental desires involved, because it's very tribal by nature. Now, to follow the other is to die of cold. In this connotation, as I'm receiving it, you cannot receive that path of grace unless you have awareness enough to bring it in. And if you don't have the awareness, it's cold to you. It's forbidden. It's incomprehensible. It's not even desirable. The middle path alone is safe. Well, this is the middle path of the pillar of light. You can see it in the Sephirothic tree. And this is bringing together both the fire, which is the blood path, and the divine white consciousness, that is the fire of neutral light that is not bound to any principle, but that of divine harmonics. So in the middle path at this time, we bring the two together. At this juncture, let us turn our attention to the Arabic tribes. They also contained some direct descendancy from the Mazur. I use the word direct because Thoth qualifies that. Almost everybody on the planet has some of it. But when he says direct descendancy, he means a special direct connection to it. And he identifies 3 tribes in the Arabic nations who have this direct descendancy. But he says that they are hidden. By this he means they're not visible to the outside world. Oh, they may be, but they seem to be such a minority or inconsequential in the historical record, that we're looking at these times, that they don't show up. So he's not giving me the names of these tribes because he's saying they are key to the connecting harmonic that is necessary in order for resolution to come about, not in just this current time, but in all of the planetary field that we need to correct, to bring together, to balance before we can move from a world system 1 to a world system 2. So it's crucial that this peace in the Middle East vision be accomplished, but it may not be accomplished in the way we are projecting it in our consciousness. Both the Hebiru and the Arabic tribes each carry some world karma, planetary karma, as well as planetary blessings. And these things need to be reconciled. These are not ongoing tribal disputes. This is planetary world karma. In other words, it's not just them, it's us. It's all of the planet is being outpictured in these 2 karmic potentials that also carry such grace and light. It's a conundrum, but it is something that as a planetary whole we created. And the One World Legion, the owl, is making good use of. And before they were even the owl, the architects, those who began this whole programmed negative institution on the planet, they were very much in control of the Middle East and all that was going on there in the negative sense, not in the positive. But they had their talons deeply ingrained in that land because it was so sacred. And wherever there is light, darkness tries to become the vampire and siphon that energy out of the land and the people. In conclusion, let us look to the light and understand we have so much assistance from the higher realms. Yet, we must be the ones to lift up our hearts and minds to receive it. There is a pale of evil going on the planet right now that is greater than it has been in a long time. And the owl, the architects, are attempting to control the narrative, to make heroes out of villains and terrorists, and to muddy the waters about what is really going on behind the scenes. Just take this into your heart and realize that you are the one that has the discernment, the ability to discern, the ability to rise above polarities and recognize the true spiritual impact of the lords and ladies of light on this planet, and how you can connect to that field of consciousness and become one with it. And as Thoth says, then rise up, because you indeed were born to do this. And so it is. In the information box below, you will find a link to a playlist of videos related to what I discussed in this video.